Hello and welcome back to the first episode of William Winsett After Dark, the show where I slowly lose my mind in the dark. Behind me is the out-of-focus footage that I recorded as the intro for this video essay about MF Doom. It's out of focus, but we here at After Dark believe that every problem is just a solution waiting to happen. Eventually. So now I'm gonna do the intro. I did it before too, but now it's dark. The crux of the intro is that I have two stories about hip-hop artist MF Doom that I think define how I feel people react to him. The first story was about me meeting with a friend in my first apartment, and he saw that I had a copy of Madvillainy, and he was like, "Oh man, I love that album," and I played it, and then he rapped along to the album while he kicked my ass in Smash. Still, it was a fun story for me, even if it did ruin my professional Smash aspirations. But then the other story was just me sending the album as a recommendation to somebody, and then them sending me back that it was pretty experimental. The album was Madvillainy. It's I don't know, it's one of the most popular albums of all time. It's on these lists that I'm gonna find later. It's all these lists that I'm sure it's on maybe. But I do have a lot of friends who seemed put off by the fact that he loads his albums up with so many samples and skits and stuff like that, even though I think it's a large part of the appeal. And there's no better way to talk about MF Doom, his use of samples, and the great songs that he makes than with my favorite of his albums, Food. So I've made this video essay for people who may have tried out the album and got put off by the samples and stuff like that. It's basically sort of an introduction if you listen to the album and didn't really like it on the first try. I know that sounds like a specific audience, and that's because it is. I'm mainly pitching this to people that I know in real life. But if it helps you learn something about the album, then that's also cool. Did I have a joke that I used to lead into this? No, I didn't say anything funny. Alright, let's get started.
If you've done 6 impossible things this morning, why not round it off with breakfast?
By 2004, MF Doom had already released 2 full LPs under his own name, as well as 2 full LPs under 2 different alter egos that Doom was writing with at the time. His first LP, Operation Doomsday, was 5 years old, and Madlib and he had just released cult classic Madvillainy that year. Doom would truly have to be a super villain to be able to pull off 2 cult classic albums in 1 year, and he was already sitting on one. In an interview for Luke Fox for Exclaim.ca in 2004, Doom said Food was done a year ago, and that it was marinating, because Doom committed to bits. Which means Food was being recorded around the same time as Madvillainy in about 2003. The reputation that both albums have gained in the years since makes the run legendary in hindsight. But it was also interesting how Doom was able to put together 2 distinct sounds, his collaborative sound with Madlib, and then a more unique and personal sound for his own album. Food was his innermost personal thoughts, as he described it on the interviews released in the 20th anniversary release of the album. But those thoughts are wrapped in a kind of concept album about things you find on a picnic table, as he describes it to Alex Papademos for Spin. Each song ties back into a food metaphor about life, which represents different facets of Doom's personality. The reason for such a yummy concept was a desire to provide an opportunity to pull hip-hop back towards showing respect for human life, as he puts it to Papademos. The album opened with beef rap, about rap beef. Rap beefs were all over the place in the early 2000s. Nas and Jay-Z beefed, 50 Cent and Ja Rule beefed, Eminem and Everlast beefed, and Eminem and Limp Bizkit, and Eminem and Benzino. Tupac and Biggie's beef and subsequent deaths had already become notorious rap history, and the uncertainty around the time with similar incidents like the deaths of Big L or Jam Master Jay was on the mind of a lot of artists at the time. Beef rap seems most like the thesis for the album, and a message to other rappers. Doom opens by talking about how rap beef could be dangerous for the artist, before explaining that he kept his head low and focused on keeping it about the beats. Because Doom was describing what his process was like, it felt more like he was pitching an alternative for subject matter in rap, rather than critiquing it as a genre in general. He expanded on the view in Con Queso, where he rapped about laying low because it ain't worth the drama. He also pointed out how weird it was that a lot of rappers were basically telling on themselves, and rap snitch knishes with Mr. Fantastic. Basically saying that while it might work for a song in the short term, it was really gonna screw you in the long term. That view on rap being better when it's mostly about the music is a facet of Doom's overall use of music as an outlet. It's another thing he talked about a lot on the album, rapped about a lot. He compared other MCs to crabs in a barrel and potholders, but said that there was bigger fish to fry. Bars on One Beer called him the best, and then explained that it was because he was a music nerd and a comic geek, mixed with some of what he's drooping off. And Vomit Spit puts together a story where there's initial hesitance to somebody like Doom, because of the mask and because he presents himself as an unknown, but once they've heard him rap, they give in, and Doom became master of the world. In Con Carne, he talked about how his perspective was influenced by the time that he spent retreated from the hip-hop world after his brother died. After getting screwed over by labels around the time that he retreated, when he came back, he was ready to focus mostly on the money. He was also more careful about who he interacted with once he got bigger, rapping on Deep Fried Friends, how a lot of people only seemed to show up when the money came, and that caused him to focus in on the music. But his status as a weirdo was worn on his sleeve, as well as how he was really successful with girls, as he talks about on Hoe Cake. He used the word weirdo on the song, I'm not just quoting Zack and Cody. Then there's Cookies at the end, which is about Doom's love for internet porn. It's actually the song he seemed to explain the most in interviews, having told Luke Fox the title came from the picture as it saves on your hard drive. He then explained that he had a fever for the cookies before calling himself the Cookie Monster. And it's what he left you with on Food. I didn't explain everything there. I didn't even touch the musicality or any of the rhymes. Somebody who actually studies or thinks about music is probably better suited for that job. I'm pretty bad at dissecting things like that. My brain usually stopped at, oh hey, these beats sound cool, and those matching words are nice. Matching and cool, that's all I need from my music. But a polarizing thing about the album and Doom's music in general is his use of samples. As far as I can tell, people just seem to get bored with it sometimes. They don't think it has a place on a music album. He explained to Luke Fox sampling was a technique he used ever since he was a kid, where he would draw influences from all around to get different points across. A lot of songs included dialogue snippets from the 1981 Spider-Man cartoon episode, Doom, Master of the World. Dr. Doom, Master of the World. I'm getting used to saying it the other way. Doom repurposed the story of Spider-Man thwarting Dr. Doom's evil plan to take over the world through mind control to tell his own story about how he successfully takes over the world and steals Spider-Man's girlfriend. The specific Spider-Man cartoon, beyond being just a good fit for the album in general, also seemed to be something that was specifically, if not meaningful to Doom, then he at least thought about it a lot. One of the albums Doom did under another persona, Victor Vaughn, opened with sampling the theme song for this cartoon, and it leads into one of my favorite album openers that Doom has ever done or anyone has ever done. Similarly, with Food, he used a lot of the background music in the episode to help carry the album along, and it fits together really well. The album also repurposed audio from Dr. Doom's origin story from the Fantastic Four cartoon in 1978 to act as a flashback to how Doom came to be. The story in the Fantastic Four of Victor Von Doom's journey to find power after his disappearance mirrored Doom's journey to figure himself out after his brother passed away. In an interview with Peter Augustine, Doom explained he could always relate to Dr. Doom because even after it seemed like they killed him, he would always come back. Doom's disappearance from the public eye and what it meant to him led to what was probably the most polarizing choice on the album, a 4-song sample saga. Meaning Doom disappears off 4 tracks and lets samples from Sesame Street, The Electric Company, The Herculoids, and an obscure soundbite about the USDA to depict the rap scene as surface level while he was gone. But it also seemed to reflect that he was no longer making music for the public eye anymore, and he was willing to do things like include a set of songs that were personal to him and help people understand him better, but that wouldn't really play well on the radio or anywhere. Like, it's not like I would throw any of the sample songs on my playlist. But I've always loved the samples. I think it's a really cool way to show Doom's perspective and what he was thinking the music should be. I have felt like warning people about the samples, which is not something I would normally do with an album. I think artists make albums and then you're just kind of supposed to take the artist at what the, like, the artist gives you something, you take it. I should have scripted that. Point being, I like the album enough that I don't really like giving it to people and saying, skip these songs, but I will tell them that it's very sample heavy and that it goes on for about 4 songs in the middle. But it's been helpful for me to let people know that not every song is meant to be the, like, best song ever, and that the album is meant to be played all as one album. I do think the songs were all great, and they all play wonderfully. I kept them all in my playlist, but I think that they're allowed room to breathe by the samples, and it gives the album more room to have personality and give you something to think about, which is especially helpful because Doom says a lot of stuff. They were essential to the album as a whole, and for the individual songs, they're either not long or easily skipped. So that was a rough introduction to Food, mainly for people who maybe gave it a first shot, but didn't immediately get their mind blown when they heard a bunch of guys speaking instead of a rap album playing. I've had plenty of friends who have bought into the album immediately, but I can't blame the people who said it wasn't up their alley. It probably wouldn't be the album I would suggest to somebody who was looking for a Thriller-style album, wherein Michael Jackson made Thriller as an album that had no B-sides. It was all supposed to be hits. But also, I wouldn't give it to somebody who was looking for, like, a deeply personal album, something they could turn on and relate to, because Doom does obfuscate a lot of the stuff that he's talking about behind a lot of clever metaphors and rhymes. Because Doom wanted this album to encapsulate how he thought, not just be about him. He cared a lot about music as a form of expression. Music was something Doom said he'd make whether people wanted him to or not. He'd probably still be speaking in rhymes as an old fart. The album wasn't just about showcasing his rapping ability, though it does go into that a lot, but it was also about using the music and sounds that influenced Doom to tell the story about how Doom rose into the spotlight. So if that's something that interests you and you've never heard the album, give it a listen. I promise you all the songs on it, when they're actually songs, are great. And honestly, the samples grow on you. If you like the album the first time, you're probably gonna like it more and more on each repeat. I used to skip through a lot of the skits when I was listening to the album, at least when I listened to it a lot, but I found myself doing that less and less as I continue listening. Partly because once I finally understood what they were there for and what Doom was going for, it felt like something had clicked in me, like I finally saw the full picture. But also, partly because I've grown too lazy to skip through my music anymore. I just let my headphones sing whatever they want to me. Alright, bye.